really feel a vibe every time we set the right down. And nobody like this man, it's nothing like this, and it's nothing like you. Nothing and nobody like you. And every single time we touch, no one ever wanna stop because I always wanna let you know that I love you so much, it's nobody like you. Nothing and nobody like you. So make me ball out. Long time is a overdue. Long time is a overdue. Make me ball out. Long time is a la do la. Oh la do, turn on. Oh la do. Hey, for the love of Calypso. Oh la say we are finger. Is the love of the tempo. Oh la say we are finger. For the love of Calypso. For the love of the tempo. Mama used to say
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just making a public service announcement. Could the driver of PBX 6076 remove your vehicle, please? PBX 6076. And we will start shortly.
We don't need no war now. No need. So tell me what the fight is for. What they killing for. We don't need no war now. We don't want no war now. Oh girl, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Take it slow, show them who in control.
Members of the audience, I'd like to invite you to have your seats, please, because I'm going to start shortly. Could you all have your seats, please? Thank you very much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Please stand for the national anthem. Remain standing for the opening prayer, which will be said by Jonelle Batiste.
Evening, everyone. Please assume the position of prayer. Dear kind and ever-loving Father, we thank you for the ability for all of us to meet and interact with each other today. We thank you for bringing us all here safely. Be with those who are still on the way. I ask that this meeting be a productive one, and when it's all over, take us all to our various homes safely. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Thank you very kindly, Jonelle. Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Jonelle asks God that this will be a productive meeting. But God knows that once it's a PNM meeting, it's a productive meeting. So we know that this is going to be a very productive meeting. Party Chairman of the People's National Movement, Senator the Honourable Franklin Khan, Deputy political leaders and other members of the party's executive, Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister, Acting Attorney General and Minister of Communications, the Honourable Stuart Young, and my shoe just got down in here. His Worship the Mayor of Port of Spain, Alderman Joel Martinez, Chairman of the San Juan Laventille Regional Corporation, Alderman Anthony Roberts, other aldermen and councillors of the Port of Spain City Corporation and the San Juan Laventille Regional Corporation, soon to be elected councillors Kimberly Small and Nicole Young, members of the PNM family seated here tonight, those members of the community that we call home, Trinidad and Tobago, listening to us on radio and on the World Wide Web, members of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's meeting. I welcome you to St. Francois Girls College, one of the bastions of education in Trinidad and Tobago. I honestly believe it is important for us to take a small step back and remember why we are here. We are gathered here tonight because the PNM sadly lost two men who served their burgesses and our party with distinction. Two men who sacrificed time, talent, and treasure to be of service to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. I therefore say tonight that we pay homage to them. And we in the PNM are paying homage to them by by bringing two young women to take up the mantle that they left behind. On behalf of the PNM family, I wish to express our sincerest gratitude to the families of Purnell and Raj for the gift of their loved one to us, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and more particularly the people of Belmont East and Barataria. Mr. Chairman, the book of Leviticus reminds us that there is a reason for everything. A time to plant, a time to reap, a time to build, and a time to break down. A time to mourn and a time to laugh. And as we move from mourning the loss of our friends and colleagues, tonight we dispel the darkness of death and embrace the new light that comes with morning. It is that light that the burgesses of Barataria and Belmont East will see on the morning of July 17th, 2018. They will see that light when Kimberly Small and Nicole Young are declared winners in their respective seats. Ladies and gentlemen, one thing the PNM has proven over the years is this: whether you're small or young, there is a place for you in the PNM. And certainly over the last few years, under the leadership of Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley, the PNM has consistently proven that being small and young is no obstacle to becoming a part of the leadership and governance of Trinidad and Tobago. Kimberly and Nicole represent the future of this country. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a future in which the PNM will continue to invest and have hope. It is a future in which the PNM sees an enhanced quality of life for each and every citizen. It is a future in which the PNM sees a significantly improved road and transport infrastructure, in which the PNM sees more and more of our university graduates taking up jobs in newly created industries, in which the PNM sees an enhanced national security architecture that provides a more than acceptable degree of security for all citizens. Kimberly and Nicole represent our investment in that future. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you tonight that Kimberly and Nicole are patriots, just like we of the PNM are patriots. And I want to remind you that there are those who are very critical of the PNM. And I also want to remind you that one of the main critics is Kamla Prasad-Bissessar. And we say consistently that that is not a patriot. We also say that after 9 elections, after being rejected 9 times, Kamla really feels she should stop going up for elections. And I want to remind you, THA elections 2013, Kamla lost, PNM won. Chaguanas West by-elections, Kamla lost, Jack Warner won. St. Joseph by-elections, Kamla lost, PNM won. Local government elections, Kamla lost, PNM won. General elections, Kamla lost, PNM won. Local government elections 2016, Kamla, PNM. THA elections 2017, Kamla lost, PNM won. By-elections 2016, Kamla losing, PNM winning. And ladies and in your minds that this is the absolutely worst opposition we have ever had. And I say that without fear of contradiction, because they have absolutely no interest in the growth and development of Trinidad and Tobago. They are not patriots. All they seek to do is delay what we have to do in Trinidad and Tobago. And it is that attitude that allowed Kamala to say that NIF, the National Investment Fund that was launched yesterday, which every reputable agency that looked at the NIF has reported favorably on it, and yet Kamala wants to tell people it's a Ponzi scheme because they alone must have money. You and me mustn't have any money because she don't want us to invest in this. But every last one of us here tonight and listening to us on the radio and on the World Wide Web, we're going to invest in NIF because it is an excellent investment. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot more for us to talk about tonight, but there are other speakers, and I'm sure, given the caliber of those speakers, we are in for a treat. My only additional advice to you, therefore, those of you who live in Belmont East and those of you who live in Barataria, is to get up early, go out and vote, and sit and wait to celebrate with us as Kimberly and Nicole bring victory in those two seats. And then, ladies and gentlemen, we will all say with one accord that great is the PNM. Great is the PNM. Great is the PNM, and we shall prevail. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I am so rooted in this spot that my shoe has stuck in the stage, like they don't want me to move. But tonight, I want to introduce our first speaker, and her name is Kimberly Rayanne Small. Kimberly Small is the candidate for Barataria. She has over 10 years of being a PNM youth speaker, representing the youth and people of the area at various events and public meetings. She has worked to mobilize Barataria's youth during 3 successive elections. Kimberly is a graduate of Holy Name Convent, Port of Spain, and St. Leo University in Florida, where she double majored in biology and environmental science. She is currently completing her Master of Science in Occupational and Environmental Safety and Health at the University of the West Indies. Kimberly began her professional career in the energy sector and is currently an HSE officer at a research institute. Her community leadership roles include membership in the Barataria Police Station Council and the Barataria Action Group. She's also a member of the Heliconia Foundation. Join with me in welcoming Kimberly Small.
Thank you, Madam Chair, the Honourable Camille Robinson-Regis, Lady Vice Chairman of the People's National Movement. Chairman of the People's National Movement, Senator the Honourable Franklin Khan. Political Leader of the People's National Movement, Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. the Honourable Keith Christopher Rowley. Deputy political leaders, Member of Parliament for Port of Spain North, St. Anne's West, the Honourable Stuart Young, mayors and chairmen of regional corporations, officers of the movement, my fellow candidate, and the next councillor for Belmont East, Nicole Young, Minister of Rural Development and Local Government, Senator the Honourable Haji Kazim Hussein, and other members of Cabinet and other members of Parliament, members of the media and members of the listening and viewing audience, my PNM brothers and sisters, other distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I am Kimberly Small, and I'm honored to stand before you tonight on this PNM platform as your candidate for Barataria. It is an absolute privilege to have been selected by our party for this role. These past 3 months, walking and interacting with the residents in my home community have been enlightening, enriching,
Ladies and gentlemen, join with me in welcoming the political leader of the People's National Movement, the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Rowley, as he joins us on stage at this time. Welcome, Dr. Rowley, to this meeting.
Because what don't kill you should make you stronger. So my problems is like terrorism. I get my doses from all kinds of sources, and all of them still can't kill me now. You see, as them stick me on the ice, I don't be strong and just like that. So I have to push me down so I get up. They have to wonder how others get up. And every crack I see, I just see through. How many hills I've got, others get through.
And soon as Dr. Rowley arrives, showers of blessing, ladies and gentlemen.
These past 3 months, walking and interacting with the residents in my home community have been enlightening, enriching, definitely humbling, and extremely exciting. I look forward to taking over from where the late Councillor for Barataria, Mr. Pernell Bruno, left off and continue building on what he has started towards a better, brighter Barataria. I was born in Barataria, and I have lived there all my life. In fact, you can call me a born and bred Baratarian. I come from a strong PNM family, a family where I can boast of our love and dedication to our community, as we have lived in Barataria through 4 generations. In fact, let me tell you. So it started with my great-grandmother. She found a house on 4th Street, and she made it her home. Then my grandmother, which was her daughter, she lived in the same house on that same street. And then my father, he grew up in that same exact house. What happened then is that my father, like he wanted a change of scenery. So guess what he did? This man buy the house across the street. Yeah? And that is where I grew up. So you understand, my roots run deep and my heart beats for Barataria. Having grown up in Barataria and been an active member in our community, I've developed a deeper understanding of our concerns, and I'm confident that with my experience while working alongside our late councillor, I can continue to work to to improve the lives of all within my electoral district. I am extremely passionate about my home community, which is one of the main reasons why I took this opportunity to serve Barataria. I'm excited as I look forward to joining the other members of council as we will serve together to improve the lives of all our burgesses. So let me tell you about Kimberly. I'm an environmentalist at heart, having a double major in biology and environmental science. I'm currently pursuing my master's in science in occupational and environmental health and safety. And presently, I'm a health, safety, and environment officer, a job which entails ensuring that the health, the safety, security, and well-being of your staff is looked after. And this role has adequately prepared me for my future role as councillor in Barataria. Because as a councillor, I commit to looking after the health, the safety, the security, and the well-being of the residents in my home community. As a young woman passionate about my community and community service, I answered Dr. Rowley's call for young persons to step up, get involved, and serve their country. I chose to represent our great party because the PNM is the only viable option. Morally and ethically, I identify with the PNM. In fact, it is the PNM's track record of delivery, performance, stability, consistency, and continuity which attracted me to this organization. I started my community-based activity in my church as a catechist. I progressed from there with service to the wider community by joining organizations such as the Barataria Action Group and the Barataria Police Station Council, an organization that I was introduced to by the late Mr. Bruno. Now, these organizations enabled me to be involved and make small... These organizations enabled me to be involved and make small differences within my community. I took the step towards the role of the councillor as I saw this as an avenue to have a greater impact on the lives of those within my community and my country on a larger scale. After working closely with Mr. Bruno, and when I say working, I walked on the ground with him, and I've been in the trenches, and I witnessed firsthand his interaction with our residents. And I was motivated by his passion for his burgesses and the positive impact of his efforts on their lives. Mr. Bruno was a hard-working, efficient, and effective individual. He ensured that he addressed all of our infrastructural concerns in his best capacity. But he not only ensured that our drains were cleared and our manholes were covered, he connected with the residents on a personal level. In fact, I'll tell you a story, and it's one of my fondest memories. So there was a young boy on my street, and he was in an accident, so he was hit by a car while he was crossing the road, and he was actually crossing the priority bus route. And seeing that he lived on my street, I would see almost every 2 days when Mr. Bruno would make an effort to come and check on him. He would always come, check his parents, find out how he was doing, find out what he needed. And he did that until he recovered. Because you see, yeah? Because you see, local government is about issues that matter. Roads matter, lights matter, but people and families matter as well. Mr. Bruno looked after not just the district's physical infrastructure, he looked after human infrastructure as well. And I am running for councillor because I too want to champion the issues of those of my burgesses, However, I want to connect with our residents on an intimate level and ensure that they are well taken care of. Mr. Bruno was a man who left a legacy, a man upon whose shoulders I stand. And I do not intend to reinvent the wheel. I will take a few pages from his book and add my own chapters to this story. I commit to continue his initiatives and build on what he started, as well as introduce my own ideas. I've been walking my electoral district since April, and I have an intimate knowledge of the concerns of the residents of Barataria. Some of the more prominent issues are those of underemployment, insect vector and pest control, traffic congestion issues, safety concerns, infrastructural issues, and negligence of vacant private properties. When elected, and yes, when, I intend to work tirelessly to address these concerns and bring them to the forefront of the council, as my vision for Barataria is a comfortable, safe community that is well serviced by local government, a better quality of life, an integrated community where we support and help each other. Now, it is important to remember that local government is about you. Your local government representative is usually your first point of contact within your community, which is why it is so important to come out and vote. Vote for a candidate that will work for you, your family, and your community. Vote for a candidate that is competent. Vote for a candidate that cares. Vote for a candidate that will strengthen the council. Vote for a P&M candidate. Now, it is important for us to remember that this is a by-election. And it's an election for seats that we have already won in both Belmont East and Barataria, and that many of us believe we have worked hard for and we deserve to keep. But I need your help. I need all of you who are here today to spread the word on the ground. Spread the word of my passion, my love, my commitment, and my plans for my community. I need you to spread the word, and I need each and every one of you to come out on election day and vote. You see, every vote counts. I need you to encourage your family, friends, and neighbors to come out and vote. Vote for the P&M. Vote to keep on the path to progress. Vote to secure your future. Vote to win big. Vote to win big in honesty. Vote to win big in integrity. Vote to win big in consistency. Vote to win big in service. Vote to win big in representation. But to win big, you have to vote. Okay. So I want you to say it with me again. We're going to vote small to win. Yeah. Want to do it again? So on. We're going to vote small to win. All right. And in 4 days, Monday, July 16th, election night, after the ballots have been counted in Belmont East and in Barataria, we will be victorious, and we will raise our voices, and we will say, great is the P&M, great is the P&M, great is the P&M. Have privilege. Thank you.
patriot is a person who vigorously supports their country and is prepared to defend it against enemies or detractors. The PNM people are patriots. Kimberly is clearly a patriot. But ladies and gentlemen, I want to ask you a question tonight. We have said there's a reason why never again Kamla. And I just want anybody to give me a page number, any number. 10. Let me just tell you what's on page 10. The Patriot's Guide to Why Never Again. All right-thinking citizens should have a copy. Page 10, September 29th, 2010. You remember they won the election in 2010, May, September. Attack on the national security apparatus, invitation to drug dealers, ineptitude. Partnership says no to OPVs for fighting the drug trade. According to Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar, and I quote, "The country is not at war out in the seas. The country is at war on the ground, in our streets and in our towns within Trinidad and Tobago." She clearly, end of quote, she clearly fails to understand that the drugs and guns enter Trinidad and Tobago by sea, in spite of all evidence to indicate this. The result? More drugs in our society, more guns on the streets, more violence. Are they patriots, ladies and gentlemen? No. And let me introduce an up-and-coming patriot, Nicole Young, the candidate for Belmont East. This energetic native of Belmont is a past pupil of Maryland IRC School and St. Joseph's Convent, Port of Spain, and a graduate of the University of the West Indies with a BSc in psychology. At present, she is engaged in postgraduate study. Nicole started her professional career as a social work assistant and is currently a guidance counselor. She's a member of the Lions Club of Port of Spain Central and vice chairman of the Youth Mobilization Foundation, an organization committed to helping families within Port of Spain and beyond. From 2015 to 2016, Nicole served the People's National Movement as Public Relations Officer for Party Group 5, Port of Spain North, St. Anne's West. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome Nicole Young. And after Nicole, I'll talk more about this.
I'm young and I'm moving on. I'm young and I'm moving on. I'm young and I'm moving on. I'm young and I'm moving on.
Dr. the Honourable Rowley, Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, the Honourable Camille Robinson-Regis, Minister of Planning and Development, the Honourable Stuart Young, Minister of Communications, Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister and Acting Attorney General, Ministers of Government, Vice President of the Senate, Senator Nigel De Freitas, Government Senators, Members of Parliament, Mayors and Chairmen of Regional Corporations, Councillors, Port of Spain North, St. Anne's West Constituency Executive, members of my Belmont East community, members of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good evening. What a journey thus far. I have been walking through Belmont East almost every day, and I have met so many of you. However, allow me to reintroduce myself to you. My name is Nicole Madonna Young. I grew up with my father and grandparents in Borsia Lane, Belmont. I'm a true Belmont girl. I came from very humble beginnings, but I had great opportunities. I was able to visit public parks where I could play, a public library where I could read and do research. All these facilities were provided under a P&M government. As a young girl, I got involved in organizations such as the Girl Guides and the St. Vincent de Paul Society that helped to instill in me values of teamwork and charity. Most importantly, I attended public schools where I got an excellent education. I attended the Maryland RC School right here in Belmont and passed the common entrance examinations for St. Joseph's Convent, Port of Spain. After A-levels, I went on to the University of the West Indies where I obtained a bachelor's degree in psychology. I'm currently pursuing a master's degree in counseling psychology. At each stage, I benefited from free education provided by a People's National Movement government. Trust me, this is something I have never taken for granted. I am driven by gratitude and love for my community and by extension my country. My love for service and helping people has even directed my career path. I started as a social work assistant, and I am currently a guidance counselor at the Ministry of Education. I'm also the vice chairman of an NGO called the Youth Mobilization Foundation, which has a focus of helping individuals and families within Port of Spain and beyond. So why politics? I have always been politically aware, as I've always understood the importance of politics. To me, politics is fundamentally about service to others. As I have said, I have a background in social work and volunteerism. I have a passion for service and helping people. Being a counselor will give me the opportunity to serve my community in a different capacity. I have walked Belmont East from Belmont Valley Road, Barton Lane, Agard Lane, St. Barb's, Belmont Terrace, all the way to Bella Road, and I have become even more aware of the community's needs. I will be a strong advocate for the people of Belmont East. I want the collective needs of the people to always be considered during the decision-making process of the corporation. When I am elected councillor on July 16th with your help, I will forge strong relationships with key stakeholders such as WASA, CPEP, TNTEC, etc. I will continue the good work done by Councillor Rajpal. As a young person that lives within this community, the well-being of the youth is a major concern for me. Our very future depends on it. As I walk through the Belmont East community and talk with young people, they are bubbling with ideas and potential. You can see it. We have a responsibility to channel the energy into positive outlets. As a guidance counselor, I have witnessed firsthand the positive impact of added structure in the lives of young ones. I see the implementation of a homework center as a much-needed tool within Belmont. I'm aware that there is an issue of underemployment and unemployment, especially among the youth. The issue of employment must be examined from two angles. Firstly, employability is critical. In my vision for Belmont East, I see a permanent professional hub within Belmont, which would link with current excellent programs provided by our government. This hub will provide sustainable skills training, ranging from sound engineering, videography, to auto mechanics, right here in Belmont. Imagine it. Secondly, We must create stronger ties with both private and public potential employers to take advantage of opportunities which may exist for internships and mentorship for young persons. I'm committed to creating linkages between the business, arts, and entertainment communities and Belmont youth. I want to ensure that we live in a safer and brighter Belmont East. I will revive our community's engagement with the Belmont Police Council, and I will work to ensure our streets, roads, and lanes are well lit. Furthermore, I will initiate neighborhood watch groups so we can all look out for each other. We're doing this together. I have great respect for former Councillor Rajpal. He was a man of the people, and he truly loved the youth. He saw sport as a tool for connecting people and fostering mutual love and respect. Indeed it is. Belmont lost a good one. When I'm elected, I know I will be standing on the shoulders of a giant, and I pledge to do my best. I want to continue the sports initiatives and the many other projects for which he championed. I want to do right by the residents of Belmont East. I continue to be asked, why the PNM? Let me stress once again. The People's National Movement has been an institution of stability and growth for this country. Since the 1950s, Trinidad and Tobago has undergone a great deal of development under PNM governance. The People's National Movement has a great focus on developing the human resource of this country. We must never forget this. As one young person who benefited from this focus on human development, I answered Dr. Rowley's call for more youth involvement, and I offer myself to you, to this community, and by extension, my country. The People's National Movement is the vehicle by which I will be able to continue to serve. I need everyone to understand how fundamentally important local government elections are. Many of the community-oriented issues we face tend to be local government issues. Garbage collection, construction and maintenance of local drains, resurfacing of local roads, public health and sanitation, provision and maintenance of parks and recreational grounds. Guess what? All local government issues. That's why it's so critical to choose a candidate who is dedicated to advocating for the provision of these services to the people of Belmont East. This election is about choosing a candidate for council that will work for you, your family, and our community. It's about choosing a candidate to strengthen our city corporation, not divide it. It's about choosing a candidate that will get the most done at the corporation. I am that candidate. I am energetic, motivated, and I love our community. As I close, I have one question for you. All you feeling young? On July 16th, take nothing for granted. Come up bright and early and ram your ex by the ballsy and vote for your PNM candidate for Belmont East, Nicole Young. Remember, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, and we shall prevail. Thank you.
All you feeling young? Ladies and gentlemen, another round of applause for Nicole Young. And ladies and gentlemen, I am about to introduce another Young. He's a member of parliament for this constituency, Port of Spain North, St. Anne's West. And he is definitely another one of the patriots. But before I introduce him, I want you all to pick another number. 66. Not 666, right? 66, okay. Life sport. I'm just reading the headlines. The other headline on 66, playing the race card. And I want to remind you all of this one. Racism and incitement. Persons believed to be affiliated with the United National Congress pay a homeless man to carry racist anti-Indian placards during a PNM march against corruption and bad governance. You all remember that? Another one, highway banditry. The road to Point Fortin is paved with stolen resources. Revelations that the People's Partnership flagship 7.2 billion Point Fortin Highway is being constructed with aggregate stolen from the state through illegal quarrying. Those could ever be patriots? All right. And ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce a good patriot, an example of patriotism. Stuart Young is, as I said, the Member of Parliament for Port of Spain North, St. Anne's West. He was trained as an attorney at law, and then he was trained by me as a politician. But ladies and gentlemen, let me say that Stuart Young, whilst we were in opposition and now that we are in government, has dedicated his time, his energy, and his skill and his expertise to us bringing this country to true good governance. He is, of recent vintage, the Minister of Communications. And he is also the Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister and the Minister in the Office of the Attorney General and Legal Affairs. He now acts at this time as the Attorney General of Trinidad and Tobago. Ladies and gentlemen, join with me in welcoming Stuart Young.
Tell me what they're fighting for, what they're killing for. We don't need no more now, so tell them wicked people, fire go burn them, fire go burn them. Oh Lord, I said this is the year for love, fire go burn them.
Political leader, Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley. Chairman of the PNM, deputy political leaders, Lady Vice Chair, my cabinet colleagues, members of the Senate, other parliamentarians, people of Port of Spain North, St. Anne's West, the chairman of the various council, municipal corporations, Tunapuna Piako, Mr. Terry Rondon from Sandy Grande, Deputy Mayor of Port of Spain, PNM family, members of the media. I want to start tonight as a Member of Parliament for Port of Spain North, St. Anne's West by paying my respects to a giant and the passing of a giant that has us here today in Belmont East, Mr. Daryl Rajpal. And to our neighboring constituency, another giant who unfortunately passed away, Mr. Bruno in Barataria. Patriotism. I am going to talk to you all tonight about patriotism, and I'm going to talk to the country that's listening to us and viewing us about why never again UNC. And I want to start by showing them what patriotism looks like. You like the new shoes with the red soles? Check the socks. Black, white, and red socks. Standing in a hall and seeing red makes me energized. Now let me tell Kamala and the band of followers about Belmont, because I have been observing what they've been doing in the last couple weeks in Belmont. First point to the population of Trinidad and Tobago: the PNM sees no race. Every creed and race finds an equal place in the PNM. Second point, Belmont people not stupid. So I have been looking to see who Kamala sends into Belmont. 2015, she sent Doppy. Doppy is from Naparima, spinning a wheel on the outskirts of Belmont. Car come into Belmont. That's the first person. But within recent time, they have chosen who they send into Belmont. I have been welcomed from day one in 2014 in everywhere in the country I've gone, and particularly in Port of Spain, North, St. Anne's West. Absolutely no issues, because every creed and race finds an equal place in the PNM and in Port of Spain, North, St. Anne's West, and particularly in Belmont. They, of course, choose to send Jerlene John and Wade Mark into Belmont. You think that's a coincidence? They think Belmont people stupid? Well, let me tell you all something if you've forgotten who Jerlene John is. Jerlene John is now a deputy political leader of the UNC. But she was also the managing director of the HDC. And I want to ask all of the HDC planning projects in Belmont whether you all ever saw Jerlene John when she was the managing director of the HDC. The answer is no. But they sent Jerlene with her Gucci boots, the Gucci boots that Munilal gave her from the money that he borrowed, into Belmont. And Wade Mark so embarrassed at the UNC, he never puts on his jersey the way we put it on. He's put on his jersey over his shirt, because when he going home, he wants to take off his UNC jersey. Well, I have a message tonight from Belmont East and from Port of Spain North, St. Anne's West. UNC, you're not welcome here. We are winning with PNM. We don't play the race card. And I also ask you all to observe what goes on in the Parliament and how every time they oppose good legislation in a very destructive manner. This government will stand strong. This government will do what is right, not only for PNM, but for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. I see an ex-star boy from the Senate, someone I used to practice on the other side of the bar table from, Senator Ramdeen. All you know about Ramdeen? So the latest thing he loved to call a press conference. I will tell you all, in my 17 years of practice as an attorney at law and as a litigator, I never had a single press conference. You know why? Because proper litigators don't speak to the media about cases they're doing. But them, ooh, they're up in the air, this is what we're doing. And you all will remember the election petition cases. Who won the election petition cases? And Kamala come out with Ramdeen and Ram Logan and say they win. And that is their modus operandi. Let me just focus quickly on his last press conference. They want to talk about the anti-gang legislation, and I'm going to show you all how unpatriotic the UNC is. The Anti-Gang Act is not for the PNM. The Anti-Gang Act was put in place at the request of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. And it is only when the people of Trinidad and Tobago call out the UNC and Kamala and them, they voted for it in the Parliament. Do you all remember that? They brought that legislation in place. When we were PNM opposition, we supported it. The first time it came up for renewal and their opposition, they rejected. We came back again, they rejected. And thankfully, the civic-minded and right-thinking citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, the vast majority of which are PNM, put the pressure on them and they came to Parliament and they supported the legislation. The legislation has been proclaimed just over a month ago. You all know for every successful criminal prosecution, you have to build evidence and gather evidence. Ramdeen run out, press conference, PNM government fail. PNM not police force, you know. PNM government fail, anti-gang legislation fails. Do not buy the lies, the misleading fake news of the UNC led by Kamala Persad-Bissessar and a band of merry. I didn't see it. The police service have come out. The acting commissioner of police has told the country very clearly, and for those who didn't hear it, I will repeat it, that the police service is working assiduously. They are gathering the evidence, and every lawyer knows, and every lawyer who doesn't want to mislead the population, from the time the act was passed, that's when you start to build the evidence. Everything before is intelligence. But with legislation, you can't make criminal charges what we call retroactive. So a government can come in place today and say all people who were in the savannah 3 weeks ago should be charged. So when the anti-gang legislation was passed, that is when the evidence that will go to court starts to be gathered. And a true patriot would do what? They would stand with our Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force, the other arms of law enforcement, and we would support them. We wouldn't be always trying to pull them down. And that is what the UNC is constantly doing to everything in this country, trying to pull it back and pull it down. Well, I stand here today without fear of contradiction to give my support as a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, as a member of Parliament, your member of Parliament, and as your representative to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, who have told us they're gathering the evidence now. Under this government, despite their fake news and their lies, we will do things properly and we will support the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. Madam, in her forum, 2 Mondays ago, has the audacity in the most unpatriotic manner to declare the NIF a Ponzi scheme. Well, I would like a few minutes of your time to explain to you all what your government did in the creation of this National Investment Fund that was launched today. In 2009, the Clico empire collapsed, and they came to the then government and said, if you don't support us, it is a privately owned company. It is not state-owned. We in here don't own it. Came to the government and said, if you don't support us, it will have a run on the economy, it will send shattering earthwaves through the economy, and Trinidad and Tobago's economy would collapse. The government said, we will prop it up. Our now Prime Minister, Member of Parliament for Diego Martin West, asked the $1 million question, $1 billion question, how much would it cost before they supported it in Parliament? At the time in 2009, 2010, it was estimated to be $5 billion. Unfortunately, PNM lost the election in May 2010, and for 5 years and 3 months, Kamala Persad-Bissessar, with her 2 ministers of finance, was in charge of the whole collapse of the Clico and what went on. When we came into office, one of the first things the Minister of Finance asked is, what is the bill to the taxpayers? The bill by then was over $23 billion for a privately owned company with your tax-paying money and my tax-paying money propping it up. In 5 years and 3 months, they did nothing to protect us with that $23 billion. They kept rolling over an agreement with the shareholders that they would try to work things out. That was all that was holding together $23+ billion of your money. No security. We all know if we go to the bank for a loan for a car, a loan for anything, the bank takes security over something. So if we default, the bank will take whatever it is we gave as security. Not so? They did nothing. So as soon as we came in, the shareholders get big, they get bad. And they told the taxpayers, you know what? We're not signing the agreement again. And we're not giving you security over the $23 billion you owe. So what did your government do? We went to court. And we fought hard, not for PNM, not for the government, but to protect every taxpayer in Trinidad and Tobago. We even fought against former PNM ministers who are advising the shareholders how to take over the company without giving any security for $23 billion owed to the taxpayers of Trinidad and Tobago. And your government, your Prime Minister, Minister of Finance and Cabinet came under tremendous pressure. But what did we do? We stayed calm in the face of the attack. We found the best lawyers. We guided the lawyers. We took it to court. And we succeeded in appointing liquidators that then protected, for the first time, the taxpayers of Trinidad and Tobago in that whole CLICO fiasco. Your PNM government did that. This administration did that. So now we need to recover the money. Because when we come in, 90% of our revenue from oil and gas disappeared within the first year of us being in office. Oil prices dropped from over $100 in 2013 to when we came in the second year, 2016-2017, hovering down to as low as upper $28. Do you know what it is if your income is $100 a week and now you have to survive on $10? So do not for a moment think that this government is not competent, because no jobs were lost in that. No public service lost their job, and we held the economy together for you. So let me get now to the NIF. The assets for the NIF are Republic Bank shares, Angostura shares, Whitco shares, OCM shares, and something called Trinidad Generation Unlimited, TGU, which is a company that produces electricity for TNTech. Those are what we call blue chip assets. Again, from those 5 years, 3 months, they did nothing to recover the money from CLICO or CIB. What we did is we went in, we did things in accordance with the law, court approvals, and we got the assets from those 4 blue chip companies that are publicly traded, and we added TGU. $8 billion worth of assets. And you know what another government would have done? Like what they did with FCB when they started to sell off FCB. All of the money they got, they just threw it immediately into expenditure. So you sell an asset for $20, you spend the $20, it means you have nothing left. This government said we're not doing that. We took the assets worth $8 billion. We have created a fund, a company that we've put it into, and now that company is issuing bonds for $4 billion. So the future generation, all of the children and the children in the future and the leaders of the future now have assets that are protected for the next 20 years, rather than spend the money, throw it into a black hole and it disappears. Do not underestimate that. And we did not do this plan only for institutional investors, and as we know, the 1% or the 2% or the 5%. No, we broke it down to multiples of $1,000. So everybody who has $1,000 of savings, you could put it into these bonds for 5 years. You'll be paid interest twice a year at 4.5% on $1,000. There is no bank, There is no financial institution in Trinidad and Tobago that would give you 4.5% interest a year, paid twice a year on $1,000. That is what the PNM government has done for you. And imagine the leader of the opposition party has the audacity to tell the country that is a Ponzi scheme, and to try and discourage people like you and people like me and people who are trying to save their money from investing in this. Well, we reject it, and we reject them and their unpatriotic behavior. And the NIF was launched today, and every single citizen should go and try and get bonds in the NIF, because we've protected the assets for the next 20 years. The dividends paid by those companies come in. Over $230 million a year is what we need to pay in interest. The dividends are expected to be over $360 million. So immediately you have $100+ million that we will continue investing for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Not like what they did. You all remember the FCB IPO? We still haven't gotten the report on the FCB IPO. You remember the bacchanal, the confusion, the tiffin in the FCB IPO? Your PNM government isn't doing that. What we've done is given every single citizen in Trinidad and Tobago an opportunity to invest and save for your future. Thank you, PNM government. We have heard it said that nothing is being done about corruption in Trinidad and Tobago. That is particularly difficult for us, because the truth is, this is the first government that has taken on corruption in a very meticulous, careful, and proper manner, hiring the best people that we can from around the world who've done it successfully. But we are not in charge of the police, who are the persons that do criminal investigations and charge, and the DPP, the great man that he is in his office, is also constitutionally separate from the government. DPP and police in charge of criminal prosecutions of corruption, not the government. But your government has filed a number of cases in the court. We have a case against Munilal. We have a case against Jerlene John. And they have more cases coming. So don't buy the false and fake news that the government has done nothing to fight corruption. And we have fought it for 2.5 years when they keep trying to slip things past this cabinet, and we have rejected it. And that is why they have to produce the fake news. Because under Kamla, the book that the leader and lady chair have, and the book you all have, that whole book is corruption scandals under them. The PNM government, 2.5 years, they had none of that. So thank God you put a PNM government in. They like to try and convince people that the government does nothing. Completely untrue. You all have heard us talk about what we did with the energy sector. And it is worth repeating. Because Trinidad and Tobago, no matter how much people talk about diversification, our economy is still based on oil and gas, and more so gas in the last decade. They were having a merry time. Mr. Kevin Ramnarine, who did not renew a single contract when he was Minister of Energy, but instead left a massive mess for this country. We came in and faced billions, and that is not an exaggeration, over $4 billion in claims against the NGC. You remember what they did to the NGC? They took $14 billion of cash out of NGC under their time. They don't like us to repeat it, but it is the truth. And then when we came in, we met over $4 billion in claims from people NGC was supposed to supply gas to and couldn't. Every time we're in opposition and we ask Kevin Ramnarine and the UNC government what is going on with curtailment of gas, they say it's maintenance. They deny that there was curtailment going on. But we knew better. Immediately as we came in, to show you how serious it is, the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago directed it from his office, working with the Ministry of Energy, as to how we should restructure and make the energy sector stable again. The Energy Standing Committee of Sub-Cabinet Committee was put into place immediately. One of the first things you heard us talk about is a deal that they cut, where they were going to give the limited gas at the time to a new plant, and all the people who've been with us through the good times and the bad times, invested their billions of dollars, they would get no gas. You know what that means in law? It means again the government would be sued, we'd be exposed to billions of dollars in claims, and we would lose the claim. As we came into office, we saw that problem. Immediately, the Prime Minister put a small team in place to go and negotiate with the government of Japan. We jumped on a plane, we didn't go joyriding. We went, we negotiated with the government of Japan, who told us, but hold on, we have a binding agreement. It is a signed agreement with Trinidad and Tobago. We're not going to unravel this. And as this administration, under Dr. Rowley, has always been, we dealt with it in an honest fashion. And we explained our predicament to them and what it would mean for the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. And today we could thank the government of Japan and the Mitsubishi Group for agreeing to turn the contract around in our favor. But that is what the UNC did. The only energy contract they signed was going to cost us billions of dollars in claims. Your PNM government, within the space of a few days of being in office, identified it, did what is right, went and renegotiated the contract in favor of Trinidad and Tobago, and that was the first one. You hear them criticizing as though the Prime Minister did something wrong by being a leader and going and sitting down with the heads of BP and the heads of Shell and the heads of EOG to negotiate. When we were stuck in negotiations with NGC, if we didn't get those contracts with BP and EOG in March of last year, Trinidad and Tobago would have no gas from the end of this year. That would have been it. Everything shut down, billions of dollars in claims, etc. Because the cost has gone up and prices have dropped, we were at a loggerhead. We couldn't break the deadlock, but we had no contract in place for future gas. A real leader seeing that takes charge of the situation, and that is what the Prime Minister did. We jumped on a plane, the Prime Minister went, he sat down with them. I was there. And he said, you have shareholders that you have to please by making profits for your people out of the sale of Trinidad gas. But I have shareholders. That's what the Prime Minister said. The Prime Minister said he has shareholders. And you know who are his shareholders? The people of Trinidad and Tobago. And we stood in difficult circumstances and we negotiated, and the Prime Minister, he didn't go there to agree a gas price. We still have phones, we have email, text messages. We negotiated proper gas prices going forward. So Trinidad and Tobago, because of the Prime Minister and what he did, now has gas contracts taking us into the future. And they want to criticize that. Kamala Persad-Bissessar did not negotiate anything during her tenure. We negotiated it, the Prime Minister negotiated it, and your government now has provided a future of gas for Trinidad and Tobago. Another thing we face, you heard me talk about claims against NGC. All of the companies that NGC is selling gas to, NGC couldn't sell because they didn't have gas. So the companies sued them. I am happy to report here today, under the leadership of the Prime Minister, Minister Khan, and the Cabinet, with some assistance by me, we have negotiated and settled CNC gas. You remember when they shut down the plant and everybody said we'll collapse the economy? We didn't. We got a good deal for NGC, and they are up and running. The gas price is settled. I'm happy to announce, Nutrien, another one has been settled, and we're about to settle a number of other gas contracts that they left behind. That is what your government did for the energy sector that we depend on. Diversification. They love to talk about diversification. Let me ask you all a question. The best time to diversify, which means to invest in other things, is not when you have money in your pocket. So why they didn't take the $16 billion from NGC and diversify? They ain't diversifying nothing. They diversify bank accounts of certain people all over the world. Right? They diverted the money. When oil was over $100 a barrel I want Kamla Prasad Besessa and Munilal and Dopi and the rest of them to tell this country what they did to diversify the economy. Any of you all could name a single project that they diversified to, a single hotel they built, anything to earn money for Trinidad and Tobago? The answer is no. Correct. But in this time and this day and age, under these difficult circumstances, let me tell you all, Trinidad and Tobago, what this government is doing to diversify. Sandals. They like to ball at Sandals. Sandals is one of the only, if not the only, Caribbean company, born and bred in the Caribbean, that is on Fortune 500. And rather than be proud to stand with something like that, a brand from the Caribbean, every minute they ball in Saddam Hussein in the Senate and Dopi in the House and the rest of them. Why sandals? How you choose sandals? We chose sandals because that's the best product for Tobago, and we will get it done. And go and ask the governments of Grenada and Barbados what sandals did for their suffering economies. It lifted it. And we haven't cut any deal with anybody because the people of Trinidad and Tobago will own the plant and equipment, and that is the hotel. The same way the people of Trinidad and Tobago own the Hyatt and own the Hilton, and then we hire somebody to run it. So we're hiring Sandals to run the hotel that we will build for the future generation. We're not stupid. That is the first of diversification. And whilst we're doing that, we're looking at other ways we could help raise tourism in Tobago. It's not about talk. It is about what we are doing. So do not listen to them and the other pontificators who want to write in the newspaper, go on the radio, etc., and say that the government not diversifying. I can stand here today with the leave of the Prime Minister and my cabinet colleagues and tell Trinidad and Tobago that your cabinet took a decision today to enter into a cooperation agreement to pursue the building of a dry dock facility in La Brea with a Chinese company. And for the first time, who hear this? The first time the Chinese companies are going to invest equity. They're going to put their own money. They're just not coming here to build and lend us money. They are going to put their own money, up to 30% equity, into the construction of this facility. And you know how that was done? You know how that was done? Because the Chinese don't have that business model. The Prime Minister jumped on a plane and we flew to Beijing. We arrived there 4 o'clock in the morning and we started working straight away. And the Prime Minister, and you all should be proud of Trinidad and Tobago, the second largest economy in the world, China, the largest population in the world, China, and small Trinidad and Tobago, stood up there with pride. And the Prime Minister asked the Premier, who's the equivalent Prime Minister in China, and President Xi Jinping, who's the President, who Forbes has said is the most powerful man in the world this year. And we said, thank you for all the help you have given us. But going forward, we want China to come and partner with Trinidad and Tobago and put money as a partner, skin in the game. And the respect that they have for this country, for this Prime Minister, and I'm going to say it, for the PNM, because it was under Dr. Eric Williams, and they haven't forgotten the PNM government back in 1971 led the charge for China to be recognized at the UN. And we leveraged all of that, a PNM government. And for the first time in this part of the world, a Chinese company has been authorized by the state of China, the state in China, the Republic of China, to invest up to 30%. And that's not all. We can bring in other equity investors into it. You know what this is going to do for Trinidad and Tobago? Let me explain the dry dock briefly. We want to build what we call 2 Panamax dry docks, 430 meters each. Because as you all would know, the Panama Canal has recently expanded. We want to capture all of the vessels coming through the Panama Canal and going down to South America. And we're not stupid. We chose China because China has some of the most shipping in the world. So if we could get a percentage of the Chinese vessels from the people who own the vessels now having skin in the game in our dry dock. That is not diversification. Watch out, Labre. And it is going to earn foreign exchange. That is a massive project. The cabinet took a decision today to proceed full speed ahead. You all would have heard us talk about an industrial park recently. Again, for the first time, we negotiated 10 top-class tenants. And Minister Gopi Skoon's Ministry of Trade, will be announcing in the not-too-distant future other tenants that want piece of the action. That is diversification. You know where they were going to build these industrial parks? Inland in central Trinidad, far away from the sea. How are you going to attract good business like that? We came in, they had millions of US dollars of claims against Trinidad and Tobago because of what the UNC did with the industrial parks. We negotiated not to pay a cent of those claims, but it would be absorbed in a new, bigger, larger, better project going forward. That's what your government did. So that also is part of diversification. You may have heard us talk today. Another thing that was done on the recent trip to China and Australia, because we don't go on joyrides, is grueling. There was one day in Australia that we flew 4 times, 4 airports and 4 planes that day from meeting to meeting. Well, 2 of the best shipbuilders in the world for fast ferries come from Australia. They were here yesterday, Incat and Hostal. They met with a cabinet-appointed evaluation team that is going to report to cabinet next week. And I am hoping, and I feel confident, that in the not-too-distant future, Trinidad and Tobago will have 2 brand new fast ferries for the sea bridge between Trinidad and Tobago. And again, let me tell you all something. We are looking at those ferries also being used, the sea assets that we have, to do day trips around Tobago, part of diversification if Sandals is going to be there. Right? So we're not sitting quietly, we're working. Do not buy their fake news, the hype and the stupidity that the government is doing nothing to diversify. National security, let me touch on it very, very briefly. This government is not putting its head in the sand. There is a problem with crime in Trinidad and Tobago. We're working hard with the police service. Our intelligence gathering capabilities have been rebuilt. They don't like us talking about the OPVs, but where do the guns and the ammunition and the firearms come from? They're coming from in Trinidad. It's from offshore. First thing they did is cancel all the boats, all the vessels. They weren't using any, cancel the OPVs. You know what she was using the helicopter for the OPVs to do? Ask her how she was getting from Philippines to Port of Spain and back to Philippines. Not via car, via helicopter. They get rid of the blimp. Everything that was in place to fight international crime coming into Trinidad, they got rid of. Well, we have asked Hostal to look at the patrol vessels that they let rot. They've given us a proposal. We are going to get those 6 fast patrol vessels back on the water to work up in the Gulf of Paria. We're looking at getting another vessel, a Navy vessel, to patrol the north, east, and south coast to solidify our borders. So the government is working with law enforcement. There's a lot more that could be said, but the message here tonight is they are unpatriotic and they don't like to hear it, but it is the truth. And Trinidad and Tobago continue to observe how they behave, the destructive manners, the fake news. They have a former minister there, all he's do whole day under fake names. Was it one of them's Curtis Lawrence is the fake name he uses? Curtis Lawrence. Ask Devon about Curtis Lawrence. And Devon Maraj every day writing in the media, trying to give them plots as to what to say. Civic right-minded citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, don't fall for that. Don't fall for what they put on social media and how they try to mislead people. This government is working hard. This government is doing what is right and doing what is right for Trinidad and Tobago. And that is what patriotism is. Belmont East, Barataria, we go to the polls on Monday. At this stage, what we have to do is make sure our machinery is working on Monday, and on Monday night, we will lead both Nicole Young and Kimberly Small from their respective areas to Balize House, celebrating victory once again, saying, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, and we shall prevail.
Tell me what they're fighting for, what they're killing for, Lord. We don't need no more now, so tell them wicked people, fire go burn them, fire go burn them. Oh Lord, I said this is the year for love.
Thank you very much, Stuart Young. Galleon's Passage, new ferries, anti-gang legislation, dry docking facility in La Brea, highways to Toco and Valencia and Point Fortin. Need I say more, ladies and gentlemen? This is the government of Trinidad and Tobago working for the people of Trinidad and Tobago under the astute leadership of Prime Minister Keith Rowley. And ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the point where the air is rare. But before I do that, I want to pay special tribute to a Belmont East resident. His name is Akeem Patterson. And he is the gentleman who gave Kamla a copy of this book. Akeem Patterson. And he's here with us tonight. And yes, this is the young man. This is a patriot. Thank you very much, Akeem. Yes, as someone in the audience said, Akeem is the one who rests the book on Kamla. And ladies and gentlemen, the person we are about to hear from now is the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. And if ever there was a patriot, Keith Rowley is a patriot. One of the few people in politics who has submitted themselves to the electorate of both Tobago and Trinidad and continues to be strong throughout Trinidad and Tobago. But Diego Martin West saw the rectitude of electing this man to serve them. And they have done that over and over and over again. And that is why today, having served for 5 years as the leader of the opposition, today Diego Martin West can boast of the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago being their representative. And ladies and gentlemen, before I ask him to come to the podium, I want to remind you of the amount of times that Keith Rowley stood in the Parliament and almost literally begged for the Carenage fishing facility. And ladies and gentlemen, he has got his fishing facility. And the people of Carenage are very grateful. And ladies and gentlemen, he is leading the charge to diversify Trinidad and Tobago. He is leading the charge to ensure that our country has a stable economy. He is leading the charge to ensure that Trinidad and Tobago returns to stability and good government. Under Keith Rowley, we have ensured that no longer do people of our region think of Trinidad and Tobago as a fly-by-night, goose-ridden country. And ladies and gentlemen, yes, the goose was loose. But now, ladies and gentlemen, under the astute leadership of Keith Rowley, we are back to sober governance. Ladies and gentlemen, join with me as I welcome to the lectern Keith Rowley, Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago and political leader of the People's National Movement.
Because what don't kill you should make you stronger. So my problems is like steroids, boy. I get my doses from all kinds of sources, and all of them still can't kill me now. You see, as them stick me on the ice, so like all this storm, them just like a hope. So as the books speed up, so I get up. They have to wonder how others get up. And every crack I see, I just see through. And when the help I brought, I just give it through. I just want up. I feel like move any mountain, I trample any building like
Thank you very much, Chairman of tonight's proceedings, Party Chairman, Mr. Franklin Khan, my many cabinet colleagues who are here this evening, particularly the Member of Parliament for Port of Spain, North and Downs West, Minister Stuart Young, who has the responsibility on Monday to report to the political leader that we have won Belmont East by a landslide. Other ministers, and I see in the audience we have the distinguished presence of the Mayor of Port of Spain. Welcome to a meeting, Mayor Joel Martinez, party officers all, members of the Belmont community, visitors, nationals at home. Tonight, I am very proud to lead a political organization which, in the face of a request from the Election and Boundaries Commission to contest a by-election in Belmont and another in Barataria, to have been able among our membership to have produced two of the finest young people in Trinidad and Tobago who have offered themselves for public office. A few weeks ago, I had the pleasure of having a similar meeting like this in Belmont, in Barataria, and present in that meeting was the grandmother of Kimberly Small, who is an octogenarian and a foundation member of the PNM, and this party should be proud. We have a very large number of local government seats, and the PNM now holds the majority of those seats across Trinidad. But unfortunately, as fate would have it, in recent times, we have lost two of our best councillors. I refer specifically to Councillor Daryl Rajpaul here in Belmont, who was one of the most highly respected local government officers in the PNM. And in Barataria, Councillor Pernell Brumo was another shining star in our local government crowd. Both of whom were called away in what we may want to regard too soon or in an untimely manner. But we have no control over that. We would like to say to their families and their communities that they were represented by the best, and now that we are called upon to replace them, we have also chosen people of a similar quality, and we expect that they will be supported in the same way. The trouble with the PNM for some people is that wherever they want to walk, the PNM would have passed there already. I find it quite amusing that our opponents appear not to have a single original political idea in their head or in their party. Because time I hear them, the slogan that they have come up with is our old PNM slogan. I mean, I can't believe it. Enough is enough. PNM used that already. Don't worry about a thing. Every little thing gonna be all right. That is Patrick Manning theme song. We care for you. We run a whole general election and we care. And of course, I expect that by Monday, they will pick up the last slogan they haven't copied yet, which is, the Balize is blooming again. And I suspect that the only reason why they have not copied that one yet is because the Balize is the only living political symbol that you can talk about growth and bloom, because what does the UNC represent? So, I follow the campaign. I'm not a candidate. I'm the leader of the political party that is responsible for guiding the organization which has produced Kimberly Small and Ms. Young here in Belmont. But I'm not a candidate. As a matter of fact, tomorrow morning I'm going to Tobago for a couple of days. And if they find out, they'll complain about that too. But the campaign is shouting my name. The entire campaign is about shouting my name. Rowley doesn't care. Rowley doesn't care. Rowley doesn't care. Okay, good. So send a message to him. That send a message is another PNM slogan. We send that to the NAR. That was Maurice Marshall telling the NAR and telling people in the local government election in 1987, send a message to the NAR, which in fact had contained what is now the UNC. Every single slogan is a whole PNM slogan. But let me tell you something. I have no problem in receiving a message from the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Because on September 15th, 2015, you did send a message to me in the general election. And the message you sent to me was, go into office and provide Trinidad and Tobago with honest and cost-effective government. We accepted that message. And it is because we accepted that message that nowhere in the structure of this government, which has already passed halfway of its term, you will find a combination of Anil Roberts, Rudal Munilal, Ram Logan, Jerlin John, Ram Dean, Jack Warner, and Kamla. You sent me a message to run a government that does not include that. We heard you loud and clear, and today the government of Trinidad and Tobago is quite different to the government that was in place when I got that message. You also sent me another message. You said that government must be cost effective. So today, the cabinet of Trinidad and Tobago is $50 million cheaper than the cabinet of the last government. 23 ministers as against 33. That is millions of dollars we're saving. And of course, the country is being run far more efficiently than it was when everybody was a boss and everybody was a prime minister in the last government. By this time in the last government, 3/4 of the cabinet had already experienced a 10 days as prime minister. Under this government, under this prime minister, I have been the prime minister, and to maintain good order in this country, when I'm out of the country, one member of the cabinet so far has been acting prime minister, because we are a serious government in a serious country doing serious business in a serious way. The record of this country will show that Vanilla Allen Toppin was a prime minister in this country under Kamla Prasad Bisesa. It will show that Munilal was in the prime minister office, Rambachan was in the prime minister office, Pachak was in the... Was Anil ever there? He was the one next. He was next to go in there. The record of this country will show that it cannot be erased. But I'll tell you something. When we came into office in September, since 2014, our energy fortunes had begun to change because the price of oil had begun to go downwards. In this little book, which you all must have a copy just in case you forget what happened to you between 2010 and 2015. In this book, you will see where when oil price dropped to $84 per barrel, it was a crisis in 2014 under Larry Hawaii. $84 a barrel oil was a crisis in that government. We came into office, it continued to fall all the way down to $47 when we came in and went down to $28. And rather than understand that the government of the day then is having serious difficulty keeping body and soul together, they're up and down the country trying to create discord, trying to make the country ungovernable. But I say tonight, I am proud of the people of Trinidad and Tobago because you have ignored them, you've stayed the course, and you will ignore them continuously because they have no good thought for this country. $28 a barrel oil. Gas price stuck at $2.50. Revenues dropped by 90%. But they want more this, they want more that, they want more this, they want... I can tell you, I am not in this as a popularity contest. What I'm in this is with a responsibility to do what has to be done so that the people of Trinidad and Tobago can have a good chance of getting out of whatever situation we are in. That is the job I am in. So, you gave us a message at that time, and the message you gave us about the economy was stabilize the economy and give us an opportunity to turn it around and bring about economic growth. From day one, every God in heaven thing we try to do, something wrong with it. They have an army of liars who put out there in social media or even on the newspapers. When we have not done anything wrong, they fabricate it and then argue with it. So that's how it's been. But we have not allowed that to distract us. We have stayed the course. On the simple matter of devaluing the currency, we could have done that and be popular with those who advise that. Take the line of least resistance. But by now, very many people would have been paying $10 for a pound of flour, $15 for half a pound of saltfish, and many going hungry because it is those at the base of the economic pyramid who feel the pain of a devaluation first. And when it happens, there are very few instances where it is reversed to prosperity. It usually continues along the road, right? Where you get less and less. And I'm going to ask all of them something. When you devalue the currency, does devaluation give you more foreign exchange? So, devaluing the currency will not increase the supply of foreign exchange. It will simply make expenditure in Trinidad and Tobago dollars more expensive. That's what they are offering you. But you send me a message, and I can tell you halfway past our term in office as government, the economy is stable, and by all reports, we are about to experience the first growth in this economy going in the right direction. Going in the right direction. You know, whether we like it or not, any government of Trinidad and Tobago having any chance of creating any possibility of a comfortable or even a surviving mode life in Trinidad and Tobago, our God-given gift in this country is the energy sector, oil and gas. That's how we have it. We have that. So whatever else we do, we have to make sure that we get maximum from that. And this government from day one understood that. And that is why one of the first things I got as a message from you was to fix the problems in the energy sector and stop trying to run the country on lies. Because lies catch up with you eventually, you know. Those people who were telling this country that the shortage of gas in Trinidad and Tobago was as a result of maintenance work being done in the energy sector, and as soon as the maintenance was over, the gas will begin to flow again and there'll be no shortage. That is what they were telling us. Prime Minister, Energy Minister, Finance Minister. No, we knew differently. We knew differently. So when we came into office, we knew that it was an unavailability of gas in pipe to go to Point Lisas. So the message you sent us is to prevent Point Lisas plants from shutting down and do what has to be done to get more gas to flow to Point Lisas. That is happening now because your government heard your message and acted upon it. We have gas contracts in place now. We have turned around and the gas is now almost at 4 billion cubic feet. That's all the government does. Many of you would know that the vast majority of jobs in this country, in the public service, gazetted public officers, and let me make it very clear, not everybody on the government payroll is a public servant. Public servants are those persons who got jobs on the establishment, who are gazetted, and those who are on contract in the public service. For those public servants who are part of the country's establishment in the ministries, so it doesn't matter which government come in after election day, they have the job in place because they are part of the establishment. Even as there was this tremendous collapse on the revenue side, and even as we had to borrow to service the country to get us over the most difficult hurdle, the government that I lead, understanding and having confidence in a future for Trinidad and Tobago, we have not embarked in any retrenchment or mass retrenchment of public servants in Trinidad and Tobago. And even as we have done that, there are people in this country who go in front of the microphone and get themselves photographed and get themselves printed saying that the government is engaging in mass retrenchment of public servants. Lie. Some contract officers' contracts would have come to an end, or their use may not have been required, so we have suffered some loss of some contract workers. But how do you expect in a significant reduction in revenues to have no reduction at all on the payroll? I think it's magic. But by and large, we have maintained employment levels across the government payroll. In fact, some people criticize us for not cutting the government payroll more drastically to bring the deficit between expenditure and revenue closer so as to not engage in any borrowing that would risk runaway debt in Trinidad and Tobago. But we can't please everybody. We're balancing the situation, preserving those jobs, because every job that is lost could be a family that won't be fed. We've preserved the entire social support system. There's nobody in this country who was on the social support system in September 2015 who is not on it now because the government has cut the allocation for persons with challenges, persons on old age pension, persons with a family support system. They're all in place. And the social support ministry is still a ministry receiving significant billions that is just passed on to individuals at the family level. That's what the country has done. And I'm not doing it for me, or I didn't do it for myself. That is how the country has treated with our challenges. But those who are aspiring to office, the only thing they could do is badmouth the country, lie about what is happening, even when they know it is not even going to be believable. They just lie as a matter of course. It's a matter of course. And then, of course, you told us that all of us are exposed to chronic criminal activity in Trinidad and Tobago. If you hear them talk today, you would think that criminal conduct and violent action in Trinidad and Tobago, where people are being killed willy-nilly, had started when I came into office in September. So Rowley came into office, and some of them are actually saying it is because the PNM is in office why crime is run away. Let me remind you all, take you to the Bible of corruption, right? Let me take you to page 79 in the Bible of Corruption 2010 to 2015. One of the head, January 4th, 2015, on the way out. Because if you listen to Kamala Prasad Bisesa, she'll be telling you over and over that crime fell to the lowest level when she was in office, and she and Ram Logan had crime under control, and of course, for the lowest level for 31 years. Lie. January 4, 2015, 10 murders in 4 days. That is what was happening in early 2015. 10 murders in 4 days. Turn the page. The bloodletting continues, January 6th. 14 murders in 6 days. That is January. And by September, she was out of office and nothing had changed significantly. That is what we inherited. Unfortunately, we are saying that we have not been able to eliminate this from our society. The criminal element is still a major threat to our well-being. And of course, we have all kinds of problems with the response to the criminal element, not having been worsened by some of the actions of the same person who today is the biggest crime talker in Trinidad and Tobago. You shut down our ability to protect our borders. You sell the blimp for $50,000 even though we buy it for $14 million. You fired 22 of the best trained officers in the information gathering section. You put your partner, your friend to head the SIA unqualified. You do all manner of evil. And on the way out, I told you all this. You know, I want you all to bear with me a little bit, because I have developed a patience that I didn't know I had. I went to Australia because I spoke to the Prime Minister of Australia in London a few weeks ago. We were there for the heads of government meeting. And we had a meeting on the side of the conference. And I explained to the Prime Minister of Australia the predicament of Trinidad and Tobago on the issues we're just discussing here. And I asked him whether Australia would be able to try to assist us out of our circumstance. Because we are required to do two things where Australia can help. One, we need to strengthen our Coast Guard to protect our southern, eastern, and northeastern border. Because we have no vessel in our Coast Guard that could stand off on the East Coast for a number of days. In fact, some of them can't even go out there for hours. So in other words, we are not protecting our eastern flank. We have Venezuela to the west of us, to the south of us, to the east of us, and you know what Venezuela is. So we just sit here and have our open East Coast. And also, we have Tobago, which can play a much larger role in our national economy as we talk about diversification. But Tobago will be hamstrung if we're forever limping along and don't have a proper sea link between Trinidad and Tobago. So we need new ferries between Trinidad and Tobago, but the government of Trinidad and Tobago doesn't have the cash to make that expenditure on both items at this point in time. The Prime Minister of Australia agreed to help and immediately started working on how they could help. One, the vessel that we have now, the Spirit and the Express, are Australian vessels. We bought them used, and you know the story with them. Fortunately, we got one back into service now at great expense, and it is running. The other one is due to go, and we are looking at great expense to bring that other one in. We have to make decisions there. But Australia has a fund that the government has put in place to assist people like us who want to access what they produce in Australia. So we have needs, the fund is there. We have a government that's supporting us through their export system. So we go to Australia, and in a matter of days, we have their commitment to help us get out of our situation. Minister Young just told you, we have received presentations from the producing companies, and very soon, the government of Trinidad and Tobago that you, the people elected, will take a decision as to what we do, and we are going to do it. We will place an order for new ferries for the Trinidad and Tobago route. and we will place an order for a new, what they call a Cape class vessel, a 58-meter vessel for the Coast Guard for Trinidad and Tobago. So it started with me on your behalf talking to Prime Minister Turnbull and the Foreign Minister of Australia. It continued with me meeting them in the office in Australia and their teams of people in Australia and their agencies with Minister Young and Minister Moses, and we worked our interests and their interests together. It continued with me as head of the National Security Council and Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, sending the head of the Defence Force, head of the Coast Guard and Coast Guard engineering personnel to Australia to see what is available to us and to see whether they, the professionals in our Coast Guard, approve of the direction the government is going. I can tell you, they have gone, they have seen, and they are on board. And that is how we are going to end up with a vessel that will go off the East Coast and has a 30-day endurance. Means that that vessel could leave. That vessel could leave our shores and spend 30 days patrolling, choosing where to be night and day to surprise anybody who's coming in. Today we have no such vessel. But that was the procurement process. I want to ask Kamala Bissessa and Wade Back and Ramdeen, what was the procurement process that they used to buy the vessel from China that park up in Tetron that can't go no way? The supply vessel. Totally unsuited for the purpose. The vessel is there, but it cannot be used where it is supposed to be used because it was not the vessel for that purpose. But I tell you what, when we came into office, the vessel was already at sea coming to us, unpaid for. We had to pay $200 million for it. Park up that cannot be used. And against that background, I have to listen to them, trying to incite the public that this government doesn't care about crime and fighting crime and protecting our borders when they are guilty of that. I'll tell you worse than that. They gave the instruction for that vessel to sail from China, the same China that they're cussing now because we bought the Gallon Passage there. They bought that vessel for the Coast Guard from China. The vessel had no ammunition on it. All it had on it when they gave the order for it to sail were some Trinidad and Tobago personnel and some Chinese personnel, totally unarmed, sailing through pirate-infested waters to Trinidad. The first issue I had to deal with as Prime Minister was to ask some of our foreign friends to try and protect that vessel so it could come to Trinidad. That is their record. That is their record. But they are big advisors now. So tonight, I want to tell Kimberly Small and Janelle Young that you represent the best in the political offering in Trinidad and Tobago because we are the best for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And every time there's an election, some people go by a rum shop and form a party and put up a candidate and so on. Okay, that is their record. We in the PNM, we have been doing this for over 60 years, and that is why the people of Trinidad and Tobago are where they are today, because the PNM stands with the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and you are our standard bearer. They're coming to Belmont. Let me tell you how they view you, the people of Belmont. They're coming to Belmont. They can't hold themselves up with any record of performance or integrity to you. Put up placard and lamppost. If you lost your food card, or if you lost your 10 days, vote for the UNC. That is not a basis to vote crooks into office. That's how they see you. Hungry belly and no integrity, so you lost your food card. I will tell you, Minister Krishlo Coburn will tell you, as Jack Warner told us that they were giving away food cards by the ton load from the car trunk, and you know it. I know one family with a mother and two daughters. The two daughters had degrees and were employed, and the three of them were on food cards. When Minister Coburn under this government invited persons on food card to renew their food card, thousands of persons didn't show up. You know why? Because they weren't supposed to be on the food card in the first place. So the message we got from you was to clean up that corruption. The corruption wasn't only at the top, it was right down to the plate on the food card under the UNC. And have the gall to come here in Belmont and tell decent people, if you lost your food card, vote UNC. Well, I will say to you, If you want to have a chance in Trinidad and Tobago, you keep the UNC out of office and you vote the People's National Movement. You know, we have to build infrastructure. Even as we have challenges with our revenue, even as they're preventing us from collecting a simple revenue like property tax. Trinidad and Tobago is the only democratic country in the world where citizens who own property don't pay some kind of tax to service their community. Call it whatever you want. Land and building tax, property tax, whatever, is a tax on property. And all of them who own property abroad, they're first in line to pay property tax out there, you know. First in line in Florida to pay for the ill-begotten goods because they know that it is a tax that is reasonable. We have lost billions of dollars by the foolishness, and they believe that by taking the position that they are against property tax, that you will vote them into office. But I am of the view that the vast majority of people in this country are honest, decent, right-thinking people who will pay that tax knowing that it will contribute to the quality of life and the well-being of their community. So, we have infrastructure to build. When they had money, they didn't build it. But even without the kind of flow of funds that they had, we still are aiming to build that infrastructure because much of the infrastructure contributes also to some economic activity. As I speak to you now, what are we trying to build? Well, we built the Brian Lara Stadium. It's available for use. The CPL starts in a few weeks. The finals will be here again in Trinidad and Tobago. When we completed that, after it was left abandoned for 5 years, they thief out everything that was nailed down inside there. We had to go and replace it and build it, but we finished it. We finished it, so the country now has an international class stadium hosting the Caribbean Professional League. 2015, they were hosting the finals in the Oval. $4 million they gave to that. And when we came into office, the message we got from you, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, is we're not doing that again. The parties came to me and they came to our representatives demanding that we fund them in a similar vein again. Otherwise they will sue the government because they have a contract. I appointed Brian Lara to be our negotiator, and I told Brian, tell them to sue the government as soon as they're ready. But on the other hand, if they want to be upright and straightforward with us, we will cooperate with them and we'll contribute as a reasonable amount of money towards the finals. They try to bully us. Oh, if you don't give them the money, they'll take the finals. I said, well, take it somewhere else now. And they try to take it somewhere else. They go to Guyana and stay in Guyana and tell us if we don't pay them the money here in Trinidad, Guyana will take the finals. I said, thank you, Guyana, take it. Of course, Guyana was never in line to take it. It ended up in St. Kitts. Remember that one? And they had, but in the end, it ended up back in Trinidad and Tobago. We are now paying them $1 million in local currency and in kind, and we have the finals for 3 years. So you understand the message we got from you and how you benefit by having elected a PNM government? The highway to Point Fortin, we had your cash tied up in bonds by a contractor who they were protecting. You had to elect us to office. We had to go to court in London and elsewhere to fight the contractor to get back for you $950 million. People of Trinidad and Tobago, I'm not talking about $950, you know. I'm not talking about $9 million, you know. I'm talking about $950 million which were there, your money paid paid to the contractor by Mrs. Kamla Prasad Bisasa, Rambachan and the cabinet, which they thought they were going home with. Tonight, here in St. Francois College, in the constituency of a Member of Parliament, Stuart Young, if Stuart Young has done nothing for the people of Trinidad and Tobago, fighting that fight and winning that battle, take about Stuart Young. $950 million. We are spending that money now, hiring contractors. The work is underway, and we are spending it and getting road building for it. But they thought they had protected it, you know. What they did, the last working day before the election, Rambachan and his ministry removed from the contract the clause that said, if the contractor has gone bankrupt, as the contractor had gone bankrupt, that wasn't the case for the government to cancel the contract. They thought they had protected the contractor, but they didn't cater for the people of Port of Spain North, electing Stuart Young, and they didn't cater for a PNM government coming into office and capo smoke the pipe. You see, today is a red letter day. Today is the day of the National Investment Fund. We launched today the National Investment Fund, an outcome of the last general election. Because you see, they were owing $23 billion. They bungled somewhere and were forced by an arbitrator to sell the methanol plant, and from that order of the arbitrator, the methanol plant was sold and we got back $8 billion. That was the only money we got back in the CLICO arrangement, because an arbitrator found that the government had acted improperly, ruled in favor of the minority shareholder, and forced the government to sell the methanol plant to the minority shareholder, and that's how we got back $8 million. $15 billion was still out there jumping up in steel band. I'm not talking about $15. I'm not talking about $15 million. I'm not talking about $1.5 billion. I am talking about $15,000 million in private hands, in private control. Your money. So as a result of electing this government and sending me a message to get back your interests, this government engaged in a battle. And we won that battle. And today, $8 billion in assets are under control of the government. It is from the victory of that battle that today we could have put available for all the people of Trinidad and Tobago at the individual level, at the corporate level, at the pension fund, at the UTC, at the NIB. The Minister of Finance is going to raise $4 billion backed by these $7.9 billion of assets. And you think that would be good news to them? No. They have to find some way to lie about that. It's a Ponzi scheme. A Ponzi scheme is a pyramid, right? Where somebody brings money, and the money that comes 4 o'clock, pay the person who was there 2 o'clock, and the money that comes 6 o'clock, pay the 4 o'clock person, and when the line ends, the pyramid boss. That is what it is. And that is the description of a former prime minister who oversaw 2 ministers of finance lie to you, the people, until that they have settled the CLICO matter. Yes, they have settled it, but they leave $15 billion in steel band outside there. Tonight, I am proud to be the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago that led the charge. And if nothing else happens as a result of the tenure of this government, we have brought back to the people of Trinidad and Tobago billions of dollars of assets that otherwise would have been lost to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Because when they told us to get off the board and that they wouldn't sign the agreement to cover the bailout, what they were saying to us is, we're not repaying the money, and you, the people, could go to hell. But standing in the gap for you, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, was the government that you elected. And that is why When you come out in Barataria on Monday, and you come out in Belmont on Monday, that is what you are voting to support, a government that stands with you. And high and low, we are recovering money stolen from you, you know. Somewhere in East Port of Spain, some individual called himself a contractor, an accountant. He have $18 million of your money in his personal bank account. Well, we have gone to court, and we got that frozen. We're getting that back. 18 million, that is the level of corruption that was flourishing under the UNC with the encouragement of persons, who today mysteriously move from ordinariness to billionaires in Trinidad and Tobago. I could tell you something. This by-election here in Belmont, we have not paid one soul $1 to walk with any candidate in Belmont. They're paying $400 a person to make noise. They have so much money they're paying people. I'll tell you something. We in the PNM, we understood that in this politics, money can't buy you love. In Tobago in 2013, they spent $60 million. They were paying drivers $1,000 a day, paying people $400 a day to wear jersey, and election night, PNM win all 12 seats. They build, and coming here, imagine Jolene John and Camille Robinson-Regis coming here in Belmont and the Barataria and telling people, Rowley doesn't care for you. It is because I care about you, your children and your grandchildren, why we are doing the things I just told you, because we want to give them a future in Trinidad and Tobago. That is caring. Let me tell you how Camille Robinson-Regis and her band of merry people care for you. I take you to page 68 of this document. The record of the performance of Camille Robinson-Regis is called The Patriot's Guide to Why Never Again. Page 69. Page 68, 69. SIS, from bankruptcy to billions. And this is no joke. Mr. Hines is here tonight. He was in the parliamentary committee when revelations in Parliament that Super Industrial Services, SIS, a firm reputed to be a financial supporter of the People's Partnership, went from bankruptcy in 2010 to receiving over $2 billion in contracts awarded by the Camille Robinson-Regis government in 4 years. And if you think we're just talking for talk's sake, let me walk you through some of those awards. Let me start at the beginning. Let me start by Camilla House in Philippines. As soon as she became Prime Minister, she became the occupant of a palace in Philippines, built by SIS. And when the contract was going on, you may recall those of us who were in the parliament in the opposition were pointing out that SIS had painted off the name on his equipment so nobody would know he was building the Prime Minister house. Start with that. $2 million for Los Bajos beach facility. Now this was a company that was bankrupt as per the parliamentary records. $2 million for Los Bajos beach facility. $5 million California Youth Facility. $5 million NGC Corporate Campus. $3.2 million Gasparillo Park Recreation Ground. $9.5 million Lower Comuto Recreation Ground. $25 million Cuba Presal Interchange. $8.4 million Arima Wastewater Plant. $130 million Pinal Recreation Ground. $6.8 million Lunch Park in Wassa. $100 million from Sport Company thereabouts Mervyn Park Recreation Ground. $202 million for the Motor Vehicle Authority. $3.5 million Sandy Grande Hospital. $1.7 million Malik Secondary School. $12 million CISL. $24 million Kanhai Presbyterian School. $1.5 million New Grand Primary School. $15 million Fabo Village. $1.6 million Wassa. 1.2 billion Beetham wastewater treatment plant. That is carrying Kamla Prasad Bisesa style. Nowhere in this government is there a record of good luck like this. So I can't argue. SIS knows about Kamla's caring. And the minute the government changed, from that day till now, SIS had never been seen in this country. All of a sudden, they have no interest in contracts in this country again. I'll tell you what your government did. You sent us a message to do what we can in this situation. And you know what we did? We froze $180 million of SIS assets in Trinidad and Tobago while they're hiding in Panama. In the law courts of Trinidad and Tobago, $180 million of assets are frozen in response to this largesse directed to this contractor by the Kamla Prasad Bisesa government. So you understand why they could come in Belmont and walking around in Puss in Boots that cost whatever. I'm trying to tell you, put them in office, and when they get back in office, they will share the spoils with you. And more importantly, they want to get back in office to prevent the government from going after the corruption that we are going after now. So if any of you believe that they want to get back in government to serve you, you have their record from 2010 to now. But what is really panicking them is the fact that this government is going after the public interests, and many of them are standing between the government's effort and the courthouse door. Where in the history of Trinidad and Tobago have you ever seen so many government ministers entangled with the law coming out of a government? When it's not Jack Warner, it's Ramdeen. When it's not Ramdeen, it's Ram Logan. When it's not Ram Logan, it's Munilal. When it's not Munilal, it's Jolin John. And that same group of people believe that you, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, will put on the clothes on Monday morning, leave home, and go in the polling station and vote them into office in this country. They somehow believe that you will do that because you are not concerned about what is contained in this book or what I just told you. We, the government of Trinidad and Tobago, acting on your behalf, having got the message you sent us, we have gone into the HDC. Jolin John has a case in the courthouse to answer where we have found a public officer who received a bribe and has valued a piece of land $120 million more than it was worth. And they paid the money out and distributed among themselves. That money has now leaked back into Belmont asking for votes. And they believe that you, in your right mind, with your eyes wide open, will go and look at a ballot paper and put an X next to the UNC. Well, if you do that, you will do it of your own volition. My grandfather was very conscious of our experience in slavery. And he used to tell me, slavery lasted for so long with the active involvement of a few of the slaves. And I used to ask him, well, you could say that. He said, well, when the fellas were planning to run away or to burn down the arrangements, one or two of them used to go and tell Master, you see them fellas? They're planning to run away, you know. You understand what I mean? There are a few people who, against all logic, would still think that what the UNC has done is something that they could ignore, or worse, could support. We, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, we have had such a bad experience that on behalf of the children and the grandchildren, if not on your own behalf, just make sure that you don't saddle us with that again. You gave us a message. You gave us a message to ensure that Trinidad and Tobago's image in the international arena is improved. You gave us a message that we are to protect our CARICOM market. And that is why in November, we are hosting here in Trinidad and Tobago a major meeting on the single market and the economy to try and ensure that we protect the existence of the CARICOM market as a single market and economy, a vision that we want for our future and for our children's future. But they had it taken off the agenda, and for the entire period since 2011, the single market and the economy was not on the agenda of the CARICOM conference. But then they have Duppy playing he's expert in foreign affairs, right? And trying to ask us what we have done and what we haven't done. And everything they're asking you is about an area that they have failed spectacularly. Spectacularly they have failed in those areas, but there's nothing like an election defeat to have made you an expert on matters. So all of a sudden, they know what has to be done, what must be done, how it should be done, but that again is their right. Ladies and gentlemen, we of the PNM, we are not in this for Balizi House or for ourselves. We are in this business of political activity to give Trinidad and Tobago, whether it's at the local level or at the national level, in local election or in general election, we are in it to give the people of Trinidad and Tobago the best chance of performing at the best. We campaigned when we last had Councillor Bruno with us and Councillor Rajpal. We campaigned on the whole question of local government reform. The linchpin in effecting local government reform was allowing local government bodies to be responsible for collecting all the property taxes within their borders and to use that tax to reform the way they provide goods and services to you, the burgesses. We won that election. We have a mandate to do that. We have not been able to do it because we have been engaged in legal battle and obstruction by the UNC in preventing the government from operationalizing the property tax law. But we stay in the course. We stay in the course because we know eventually we'll be able to collect those taxes and make it available to local government so that your executive and people like the ones you're going to elect on Monday will have that resource to service you, the people in your community. You have to ask yourself, why is it they are so hell-bent on preventing this tax from being collected? In a situation where revenue is in short supply, preserving jobs is a priority, servicing you at local government, there is not enough money to go around, but there's some money to be collected there. What is their problem? They believe that you are so inclined that if they tell you, well, we wouldn't collect the tax, you will ignore everything else and you will vote for them. I'm saying to you tonight, you have a decision to make that is reasonable and personal. You think they stopped there? You think they stopped there? They went up to El Socorro, started one race talk in El Socorro because they believe in polling division 1405, where there are a lot of Muslims, that a race talk and a race war against the PNM will give them the seat. They are prepared to risk the country's social, religious, and ethnic stability to win one local government seat. It's 147 seats? 140 something seats? One. But of course, I understand the problem. If you lose 8 times in a row, you can't risk time number 9, eh? But of course, at what price? At the price of telling Muslims in El Socorro that the Anti-Terrorism Act is anti-Muslim and the government attacking Muslims. Not that the country needs to prevent people who will hurt us. I see one this morning telling me I must be careful what I say because I said that the massacre in Chagaramas is akin to terrorism. Ladies and gentlemen, if a man with an automatic weapon spray a crowd of innocent people trying to kill somebody and end up killing 3 people and 4 almost got killed and others could have been killed, this indiscriminate killing, isn't that what terrorism is? indiscriminate killing of innocent participants. That is what it is. And I'll tell you something, there are guns in this country that can shoot many tens of rounds within a matter of seconds. So any person who is so disrespectful of life and disregard public places and people who are there going about their business with that weapon in hand could act like a terrorist acted in Belgium or in France or in Spain or in London. But in Trinidad and Tobago, the Prime Minister mustn't say that because they don't like it. Well, if you don't like it, you could lump it, because I know what it is, and I know that the people of Trinidad and Tobago will stand with the government in fighting what is wrong, because we know what is wrong and we know what is right. And we will never sacrifice the racial, ethnic, or religious stability of Trinidad and Tobago in attempting to win an election, a constituency, or a local government seat, because we are the people's national movement. I know many of you in Belmont and Barataria would be thinking that it's a by-election, so it's not important. And the record will show that people don't normally come out to vote in by-elections in any significant way. But I'm saying to you, it's important enough to take the 2 hours that you are entitled to, because every person in these 2 areas, if you are employed, you are entitled to 2 hours to go and vote. Act responsibly, take your 2 hours, go out and vote in support of what the government is trying to do for you and your children. You already have good reason to vote against certain people and their record. But I'm giving you reason to vote for the PNM, because it is the PNM that is giving us the best chance to deal with all the challenges in Trinidad and Tobago at this time. Whether it's the challenge of good governance, a challenge of fighting crime, a challenge of growing the economy, stabilizing the economy, preserving jobs, diversifying the economy, and just ensuring that there's peace, good order, and prosperity. It is the people's national movement, the government of Trinidad and Tobago, that gives you that chance. So, in Barataria, look for the symbol of the Balize, and you'll meet Kimberly Small as your representative right there. In Belmont, look for the symbol, as usual, the Balize, and you'll meet Janelle Young right there. Nicole Young, right there. Nicole Young is right there by the Balize. If you can't remember the name, just remember the symbol, the Balize. So, as I go to Tobago tomorrow morning, I'll come back on Monday and I'll join you for the results. And I have every confidence that the people of Trinidad and Tobago could recognize where your interests and where your future lies. Thank you very much.
Ensuring that under the PNM we have boundless faith in our destiny. And ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for this opportunity to fulfill what Ms. Batiste said, that God will ensure that we have an excellent meeting that brings good news for us here in Trinidad and Tobago. Ladies and gentlemen,